Birdie Galaxy and welcome to the Lunatic Fringe. If you're looking for astrology, you can find my latest updates in the playlists, but this video is about one of my other passions, which is crocheting. Now I plan to put out a crochet video once a month, which coincides with whatever season we're in or the particular holidays that are going on at that time. And I'm also a thrifter. I've been a thrift queen for over 30 years and I've amassed a very large collection of vintage craft books, vintage sewing books, vintage home decor. Some of my oldest books date back to the 1920s. I'm a book junkie. I love collecting vintage books. Now, that said, many years ago, I was at the Bins, which is the Goodwill outlet where you can buy stuff by the pound, and I came across a large amount of these little crochet magazine digests. They're all from Annie's Attic or Annie's Pattern Club, and there are a number of them. So I have made a few projects from them over the years, but I want to start making many more and showcasing them. So I decided to go with, I don't know if you can see this, I decided to go with this one, which is, what is it? February, March 1982. And you can see on the cover there is some very fun, very interesting projects in here, a few things that I'd like to make, but what caught my eye was this granny square tote way back here in the back. So here we go. Granny square tote, which is cute. It's got a very springtime feel to it, very little girl Easter basket feel to it to me. Definitely could work as a bag, and the finished bag is about 12 inches by 8.5 inches. And if you want to make it a complete tote bag, you're going to need to fold together some fabric, sew it together, and make a little lining bag for it. Well, as much as I love this pattern, and I think it's just a really cute little bag, I know for myself that I'm not going to use this as a tote bag. But as I was looking at the pattern, I thought to myself, well, it looks like, and it says the size is 12 by 8.5, it looks like it would fit a hot water bottle. And lo and behold, it does. It fits a standard size, just red hot water bladder perfectly. Now, if you don't know what a red hot water bottle bladder is, you should, because they should be in every household. This standard red hot water bottle, you can find them in most drugstores. It's full right now. It's not super hot anymore, but it's still warm. So this just goes right on there, just pretty easily like that. Just put it on like a little sleeve, all right? And then we have these two drawstrings on the sides that we just pull, and it closes it up, and then I'm going to tie it off. Now, I use this hot water bottle all the time, especially during the winter time. Not only to just keep me warm on a chilly day. I live in the Pacific Northwest. It's very cold and rainy and wet in the winter time, and I'm a very small person, so I tend to be cold a lot anyway. And my creative space in my home happens to be underground. It's in the basement, so it tends to be pretty chilly in this room as well. So I often just have this hot water bottle with me just to keep me warm. Also, if you are a person who suffers from any kind of menstrual cramps or maybe endometriosis or the backaches that come along with having your period, or if you're pregnant or if you have chronic pain, this hot water bladder is your best friend. I love mine. I use it all the time. And I usually would just wrap it up in a towel or a scarf and hold on to it. But when I saw this pattern, I thought, you know what? I've been needing to make a hot water bottle cover, and I just think this one looks really cute. So this cover works beautifully. I chose the red and white colors both for the fact that this is going to be posted for February. The season is in bulk, or the end of winter. February is also, of course, Valentine's Day. Now, I've never been really big into Valentine's Day. It's just not one of those holidays that I particularly celebrate. I'm not anything against it really, but I do like the more modern version that was come up with by, why can't I ever remember her name? But from Parks and Rec, from the show Parks and Rec, and she calls it Galentine's Day. So I really like the idea of giving your gal pals something for Galentine's Day, and this hot water bottle would be a beautiful gift for someone. Now, I chose the red and white for a couple reasons, both because that's what I had on hand. I have a lot of scrap yarn left over from making some holiday gifts and some projects, so I really just wanted to use up a lot of that extra yarn that I have, as well as the nod to health and healing and, you know, the Red Cross. And it's also, this red and white is a very Galentine's Day gift color scheme. So if you're interested, it's not a complicated project. If you can make a granny square, you can make this. So it's actually very, very beginner friendly. And if you'd like to follow along, I would love for you to join me. Now, please keep in mind, this is the first time that I've ever filmed a crochet project. As I'm editing, I can see clearly where I've made mistakes, and I understand that you can't really see what I'm doing with my hands, but it is such a beginner project, and it's a very basic granny square. So in the future, I will improve upon my filming of my crocheting skills, but I didn't want to waste this footage or this project, so thank you for bearing with me, and I hope you can follow along with me with this pattern. Okay friends, let's get started on this granny square tote or hot water bottle cover, whichever you choose to make. You're going to need a size J or 6mm hook, or whatever you need to reach your gauge. So we're going to make a little gauge swatch here. The gauge for this project is 3 single crochets equal 1 inch, and 3 rows of single crochets also equal 1 inch. So I go ahead and do 3 single crochets. And now I'm going to adjust them. I have a little seam gauge tool here. This is a handy tool that you can find in the sewing notions section of your craft store, and they come in real handy for checking your gauge and many other craft projects. So that worked out. Now I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more rows of 3 single crochets. Now I always do a single chain at the end of the row, and I adjust it, grab my seam gauge, check that side, make sure all of your stitches are even, nothing's wonky, check that side again, check the other side, and for this project you're going for a 1 inch square. That works out. I go ahead and frog this piece. Okay, to get started on this project with our main color, we're going to chain 4 and slip stitch into the first chain to form a ring. Chain 3 and 2 double crochets in the ring. Next, we're going to chain 2 and 3 double crochets in the ring. Second double crochet and the third double crochet. Now we'll be doing this a total of 3 times, so 2 more after this. So we're going to chain 2 and do 3 more double crochets in the ring. So I just speeded it up here. We're going to go all the way to the end. Then we will chain 2 and slip stitch in the top of the chain 3 to join. Okay. Then we will fasten it off. So we clip off the yarn. I like to leave a big enough tail so we can weave in the end and straighten it out. That's the end of round 1. Straighten it out, make sure it's nice and even. Now we take our contrasting color. You'll need about 2 ounces. This is a Red Heart Super Saver. It's a little bit thinner than that Craft Smart brand, so I just went up 1 hook size to a K, or a 6.5 millimeter, just to make sure that the gauge is correct. So I go ahead and do the same little gauge swatch of 3 single crochets and 3 rows of single crochet. Finished that. I'm going to check it again, make sure it's the little 1-inch square, and that works out. So we go ahead and frog that. I know now that I need to have the bigger size hook when I'm using the white. So we join with a slip stitch into any chain 2 space, and we're going to chain 3. 1, whoops, 2, 3. Now we are going to do 2 double crochets in that same space. One double crochet and a second double crochet. Now we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we do a 3 double crochet in the same chain 2 space. So we're making our first corner here. Just checking to make sure that I'm following the pattern correctly and everything looks nice and even. Okay, so now we go ahead and do 3 more double crochets in that same space. Second one and the third one. From here we're going to chain 1. Make sure it's even, chain 1, and then we move on to the next chain 2 space. We do 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. We're going to repeat this 2 more times. At the end, we chain 1 and join together with a slip stitch and fasten off. So you will have 4 corner pieces that consist of 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and clip our yarn, leaving a nice tail, pull it through, straighten everything out, and we are at the end of round 2. Pull it nice and even. Okay, now we're back to our main color for round 3. So we're going to pick up that J hook again, or again, whatever you need for your project with the yarn that you're using. And we're going to slip stitch into any of those corner 2 chain spaces. So yarn over and pull through a slip stitch. Now we're going to chain 3. Kind of tight there, pulling that through, chain 3, 2 double crochets in the 2 double crochets in that same 2 chain space, chain 2, 3 double crochets in that same corner, just like we did in the previous row. After we get that corner made, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to be doing 3 double crochets in that previous chain 1 space. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Then we chain 1 again, and we do the same corner with 3 double chains, or double crochets, I'm sorry, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Back to our chain 1, 3 double crochets in that previous chain 1 space, and so on until we get to the end. Slip stitch to close that round, clip your yarn, pull it through, and fastened off. We are at the end of round 3. Make sure everything's nice and even. We'll be cutting weaving in all the ends in a bit after we finish a couple more rows. Okay, so here we are again with our contrasting color for round 4, and round 4 is going to work up exactly like round 3. You're going to have those 3 double crochets with the chain 2 and then 3 more double crochets in each corner. There will be a chain 2 space. Then you're going to do the 3 double crochets in the previous chain 1 space. So the only difference here with this row is that between the corner and the middle segment, you're going to chain 2. So there we go again. We chained 2, and did the same thing all the way around as round 3. We slip stitch it together to close it off, and the end of round 4. Make sure everything's nice and even, straighten it out so it's not wonky. And we will be blocking this at the end of the square, so it will get evened out. Okay, now this is the last round for the actual square. This is round 5, and we're working with our main color. So again, we slip stitch into any corner. We work the corners exactly the same. You're going to chain 3, do 2 double crochets, chain 2, do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets in the previous chain 2 space, chain 2, 3 double crochets in that next space. And then when you get to the corner, you're doing the same thing with the 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Just work it all the way around like you did for round 4. Each round you add another little segment to the sides to increase it by 1 3 double crochet cluster. So we slip stitch to the first chain 3 row and clip our yarn, and we're finished with round 4 and with the main square. Now we will move on to the edging. So before we move on to edging, I just want to clean this up a little bit. I got my yarn needle out, and I'm going to go ahead and weave in these ends here just so they're not all over the place and you know, getting caught when you do other rows. Just take a moment to work it through the neighboring stitches as much as you can with the tail you've left yourself, and then clip it. And sometimes I will take a lighter and just do a little, light the end there after you've clipped it just a little bit and kind of smush it. You don't want to char it, and it's really easy to get the black on lighter colored yarn, so be careful if you do this, but I just kind of give it a little singe to, especially this is acrylic yarn, so of course it's going to melt at the end, and that seems to kind of help it from slipping back out, which happens a lot with some of the acrylic yarns that can be a little slippery. So just going through each row and weaving in all of those ends. This is a tedious job that a lot of people don't like to do, but I don't think it's that bad. It doesn't take that long. Okay, so we've gotten to our last one. Pull that out. I'm going to clip that little tail there, and we've finished the main square. Okay, I'm just going to block this here on a piece of cardboard with some straight pins. I've sprayed it with my water bottle lightly. It's just slightly damp, not wet. And then we go ahead and make the same exact square all over again. We have to make 2 of these for this project. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing. It's exactly the same. Now we have our second one, and we start our border or the edging of each square. Now we're not sewing these together just yet. We're going to do a couple rows of a border. So we join with a single crochet in any of the 2 chain space corners, and then you're just going to single crochet all the way across in both the previous row single crochets and the chain 1 space. So you go ahead and go all the way across, making sure to get that chain 1 space also. I did not do a chain count here, I'm sorry, but if all of your little clusters are even, then it should be the same on each side. And when you get around to the corner, you're going to put 3 single crochets into each corner space and repeat all the way around. Now we do another row of edging. For the second row, we're just going to do the exact same thing. We're going to single crochet all the way around in each single crochet with a 3 single crochet grouping in each corner. So I went ahead and sprayed this again and mounted it. Again, this is just a piece of cardboard with some straight pins, and I'm using my squaring ruler just to sort of hold it down and make sure that the lines on the sides are even and it's not wonky. Okay, now we are going to start making our seam on the sides. So with our main color, we're going to join with a single crochet into any of those 3 single crochet corners. So you're going to want to pick that middle one, the second one in the corner, and you're going to single crochet into that. And you're just going to single crochet all the way around, making sure that you grab both layers of the granny square. So we're sewing them together. You're only going to do this on 3 sides. So we just keep going across, making sure you're lining up your stitches. So if you did your squares exactly the same, you should have the same amount of single crochets along each side. And as you go in from the front one into the back one, they should all line up exactly. And when you get to the corner, your corner should be lined up as well. And you're going to do the same thing in the corner. You're going to have the, just don't do the 3 single crochets. You're just going to single crochet 1 for each stitch. Now when we get to the top, you're going to go single crochet all the way around each side. Don't close it up. You want to keep the bag part open. So you're just going to single crochet all around the open sides until you form the first round of the top segment. So you now have 2 granny squares stitched together on 3 sides, and you're just going to continue with 1 single layer, doing the single crochets all the way around until you have a full round of your main color. And then you'll slip stitch into that first single crochet on the other side of the round, and we will start the next round. Now, if this is a little confusing for you, I will have this pattern on in my Etsy store. There's going to be a link in my bio if you want to go there and buy this pattern. It'll be a digital download, and you can follow along at your own pace. I know I definitely prefer to have a pattern in front of me that I can look at and throw in my bag with me and carry with me, and sometimes I'll even just make a photocopy of it so that I can mark on it and keep track of where I'm at, use my highlighter or a pencil to underline or what have you. So you're just going to keep going all the way around this top piece. Okay, so we're going to be doing the single crochet rows for 3 total rows. So row 1, your first round of your main color, then the second round and a third round of just single crocheting all the way around. Okay, now for round 4 of the top segment, you're going to chain 4, skip your first stitch, and then double crochet in the next stitch. So there, we skipped 1, double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip next stitch, and then double crochet in the next stitch. So you're just going to do this all the way around, doing a double crochet, chain 1, skip next stitch, double crochet, chain 1, skip next stitch, until you get to your beginning where you're going to join. So now we've got 1 row of that double crochet. Rounds 5 and 6, you're going to chain 3, and then double crochet in the back loop only of each of the double crochets and chains all the way around. So we're making a little bit of a distinction now at the top. After you've done that round of the double crochets, that's where you're going to put your drawstring. Then we're going to go back to a more solid stitch, so you're just doing a double crochet in the back loop all the way around for 2 rounds. Okay, once we get to the end, we're going to fasten off that row, join the row and fasten it off, clip our tail, pull it through, and we are finished with the main portion of the bag. We have a little bit of edging at the top, so I'm going to weave in this tail before we move on. Okay, now for our last round, this is round 7, you're going to join your contrasting color with a single crochet in any stitch, chain 3, skip the next stitch, single crochet in that stitch. So we're going to do that here. I'm just checking the pattern, make sure that's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, single crochet in there, chain 3, and single crochet into a skipped stitch. So you're going to keep doing that all the way around so you have this little scalloped edge. When you get to the end, slip stitch into that first stitch and join and fasten off, or clip your thread and pull it through. Clip your yarn and pull it through. Okay, now the last thing we need to do, or well, not the last, but the second to the last thing we need to do is make our drawstrings. This is just a single crochet chain or a single chain. It asks for a piece that's 28 inches long. And you're gonna need, you really only need 1, but the pattern calls for 2. So I went ahead and made 2. And measured it, make sure it's 28 inches. I was a little bit short, so I had to add some more, and then I made 2 of them. So now you're gonna take 1 and weave it through that row of skipped double crochets. So you're just gonna weave it around in and out of those posts, turn it over, and continue it all the way around, so it comes out on the same side that you put it in through. And you could stop here, you could just leave it with 1 drawstring, and that would work perfectly well for the hot water bottle cover. But it called for 2, so I went ahead and put 2 and made them going in the opposite directions, so when you pull them out, it closes up the bag. They work quite well. Sorry that was off camera, but now the pattern says to sew the ends together, but that seemed a little silly to me, so I just tied them in knots, just tied them together with a simple knot around my fingers and trimmed off those little tails a little bit, and there you go. Drawstrings are done. They work perfectly. All that's left to do is the fringe on the bottom. Okay, so next we have to make the fringe. So in order to make this somewhat simpler, I put down a piece of tape on my grid table with the tape side up, just so I could help hold the yarn while I'm cutting it. So then I take my yarn and I stick the top on the tape and I measure out 6 inches. The pattern calls for a piece of yarn 6 inches long for each of the fringe. So I cut that, and I just do this again. I counted the stitches. I think there were around 33. I don't recall, but I went ahead and did a bunch of little fringe pieces, cut them all relatively the same length. Now from here, we're going to take each fringe piece and fold it in half, so you have a little loop at the top. I just took my crochet hook and then pulled it through like a slip stitch. So now you have a secure little fringe on the bottom of the bag, and you're just going to do this all the way across the bottom until you reach however much you want, whatever the desired length of it you want. I guess if you want to go all the way around the bag, you certainly could. The pattern only calls for the very bottom, so that's what I did. So there it is, the granny square tote slash hot water bottle bladder bag cover thing, whatever you want to call it. I think it's adorable. I think it came out really great. I like the feel of this yarn. I like the colors of it. It has a very wintry feel. I really like the fringe at the bottom. It gives it a little bit of a boho kind of feel to it, kind of a hippie feel. Okay, so that's it for this granny square hot water bladder, hot water bottle cover. If you make this project, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I'd love to see your projects. Tag me, tag at the Lunatic Fringe. I'm on Instagram. If you make this project, please tag me in it, and I'd love to see your work. Thanks for joining me. See you next time. Bye.